In the summer of 2021, a team of environmental researchers based in Arctic Russia made a startling discovery while conducting an expedition in the remote Chukchi Sea region. The researchers were part of a program dedicated to studying polar bears' behavior and their struggle for survival as the Arctic environment continues to change. During their daily observations, they spotted a polar bear in a state of severe malnutrition, wandering across the ice with visible signs of weakness. The bear appeared gaunt and lethargic, its ribs clearly visible beneath its thinning fur. It was a disturbing sight that immediately raised alarms within the research team. Polar bears rely on sea ice to hunt seals, their primary food source, but with the Arctic ice shrinking rapidly due to climate change, many bears were finding it harder to hunt effectively. This bear's appearance was a tragic reflection of the larger struggles polar bears face in an increasingly hostile environment. Realizing the bear was in immediate danger of starving to death, the researchers decided they had to intervene. The team knew that any further delay could result in the bear's death, as polar bears could only survive without food for a limited time. However, feeding a wild polar bear was not a simple task. The researchers were well aware of the risks involved. Feeding a wild animal could cause stress, confusion, and potentially dangerous behaviors. Despite this, they felt compelled to act, knowing that their actions might be the bear's last chance for survival. The decision to feed the bear was made in consultation with wildlife experts, who outlined the best approach. The team would need to provide a food source that would both nourish the bear and help it regain enough strength to fend for itself once again. After carefully considering the options, the researchers decided to give the bear a large portion of seal meat, which was a natural food source for polar bears in the wild. The seal meat would provide the necessary nutrition, protein, and fats to help the bear recover. The team carefully prepared the food, ensuring that the bear would approach it without feeling threatened. They placed the seal meat at a safe distance from their observation point, hoping the bear would be hungry enough to approach. At first, the bear seemed hesitant, its weakened state causing it to move cautiously. However, the overpowering hunger seemed to drive it forward, and after a few moments of hesitation, the bear began to nibble on the meat. The researchers watched in silence, hoping that the bear would consume enough to regain strength. It wasn't clear how long it had been since the bear had last eaten, but it was evident that it needed as much nourishment as possible. Over the course of several hours, the bear ate the seal meat slowly but steadily. The researchers maintained a safe distance, ensuring that they didn't disturb the bear while it fed. The sight of the bear eating was both heartbreaking and hopeful. This small act of kindness could very well be the difference between life and death for the animal. After the first meal, the researchers decided to monitor the bear's progress over the next few days. They continued to provide food each day, with the hope that it would help the bear regain its strength. Gradually, the bear's condition improved. It began to show signs of increased energy, moving more confidently across the ice and becoming more alert to its surroundings. However, the researchers were careful not to overfeed the bear, as they didn't want to disrupt its natural behavior or encourage dependency on humans for food. Instead, they provided enough sustenance to give the bear a fighting chance to survive on its own. Each day, the bear's condition improved a little more, and the researchers could see it becoming more active, sniffing the air and moving with purpose. After several days of feeding and observation, the bear had regained enough strength to move more independently. The researchers felt confident that it was time to let the bear return to the wild. They had seen enough improvement to know that it could now hunt for itself and survive on the shrinking sea ice. The team slowly retreated from the area, giving the bear the space it needed to leave the feeding site. The bear lingered for a moment, sniffing the air one last time before it disappeared into the vast, snowy expanse of the Arctic. It was a bittersweet moment for the researchers. While they were relieved to see the bear walking away under its own power, they knew the challenges it would continue to face in a rapidly changing environment. While the bear had made it through the immediate danger of starvation, the researchers knew that the challenges it faced were far from over. The Arctic environment was changing at an alarming rate, and polar bears were struggling more than ever to find food. The bear would have to continue adapting to an environment where ice was increasingly scarce, and hunting was becoming more difficult. The team continued their studies, hoping that the bear's story would inspire further research into polar bear conservation and climate change. The intervention was a rare instance where human intervention had saved a life, but it also highlighted the broader issue of how climate change was impacting wildlife. The researchers were committed to using the experience to raise awareness and push for stronger conservation efforts in the Arctic. The rescue of the starving bear was a reminder of the fragility of life in the Arctic. It also reinforced the necessity of ongoing conservation efforts to protect polar bears and their habitat. The researchers who had taken part in the rescue emphasized the importance of providing support for wildlife in a time of crisis, but also pointed out that such interventions should never become a long-term solution. The experience also underscored the need for increased funding and resources for wildlife monitoring programs in the Arctic. As the ice melts and habitats shrink, scientists must be prepared to respond quickly to emergencies and prevent further harm to animals in the region. The story of the starving bear served as both a warning and a call to action for people around the world to recognize the urgency of protecting the planet's most vulnerable species. The rescue operation, while rare, became a symbol of hope in the face of a worsening environmental crisis. It also served as a wake-up call for many who were unaware of the devastating effects of climate change on polar bear populations. The bear's story was shared widely by environmental organizations and the media, sparking conversations about the importance of protecting endangered species and taking immediate action against global warming. As the story spread, many people were inspired to take action, whether through donations to wildlife organizations, spreading awareness, or pushing for stronger policies to address climate change. The bear's recovery was not just a personal triumph for one animal but a rallying cry for all who care about the planet's future. As news of the rescue spread beyond Russia and into global environmental circles, the polar bear's journey became a poignant example of how human intervention could sometimes make a difference. The incident brought attention to the urgent need for stronger environmental protections and highlighted the role that international cooperation could play in addressing the climate crisis. Countries around the world began to look more closely at how they could contribute to efforts to protect polar bears and other endangered species. Research organizations and governments rallied together to discuss new strategies for combating climate change, with many focusing on reducing carbon emissions and promoting sustainable practices in the Arctic. The rescue was a testament to the power of collective action and the difference it could make in saving vulnerable species. In the years following the rescue, the story of the starving bear would be remembered as a pivotal moment in the fight for Arctic wildlife. While much work remained to be done, the bear's survival represented a step forward in efforts to protect polar bears and their habitat. The researchers continued their work, monitoring the situation in the Arctic and developing strategies for addressing the environmental challenges posed by climate change. In the end, the bear's rescue was a story of survival, hope, and the determination to protect the natural world. It served as a reminder that, even in the face of overwhelming challenges, there was always room for change, and that every act of kindness, no matter how small, could have a lasting impact on the world.